Okay guys, so here's part two of the discovering the 1983 Alpine White Porsche 944. A couple of features we noticed. I did point out already that it has the harness bar in there. That looks like an old Weltmeister unit. Look at these little tiny tweeters that were installed up in the very corners. This is so funny. Little tiny guy there, and over here on the passenger side, right here, you can see down in the back, they got these eye bolts. One passenger across the other side, one for the driver. That's when we used to have old Y harnesses with the shoulder belts going up around the seat. If you didn't have holes in the top of the seat to accommodate the harness. So funny piece there. Also over here, being an 83, it does not have an auto hatch release. Somebody welded in right here a motor bracket right here, put the motor in. You can see the new tag part on the pull cable and arranged it so that this thing had a hatch release. That might be what one or two of those buttons are for up in the front of the cockpit. So pretty wild. Here's two relays hanging right here. We haven't discovered what those are for, but you can see a harness that's been modified back here specifically for that. So, and then let's go forward on the car, and I'll show you something you gotta look out for on 944s. People are guilty of not cleaning their drains out. This is a drain right here, and on the early cars, there's one on each side, the passenger side, over to the driver's side, and then there's a central one right here that comes off the cowling area. Late models just have two drains right about here, going outboard to the fender well behind the fender liner. Got to keep those things clear. If you don't, then battery acid gets rinsed off the top of the battery, and guess what? It sits right down here, and oh my, look at this. This is complete perforation of the chassis going down through. On an early car, big pain in the butt to fix. Late car, guess what sits right down below this inside of your cockpit? It's your computer, your DME. So gotta make sure you keep your drains clear. It's an easy thing to do. Keep the leaves, grass, sticks, rats, whatever out of there. Up in the front again, interesting point here. I thought this car still had a manual steering rack. It doesn't, so we're discovering it also with you guys. This is a power steering reservoir. So at some point, even though 1983 had power steering as an option, like 99% were delivered with manual steering racks. So let's go up on the car. And then this was actually installed. I don't know if there was a factory option. We can look at the build code tag in the back of the car, but it probably was added on afterwards. So as the car's going up in the air, we'll start to explore some of the systems that were installed on this thing. You can see the front spoiler's been modified. This whole flat section right here was cut out to get more airflow. And you can see that the spaces on the side here were also cut out. And that is to install brake ducting, which you can start to see right here. Nice big orifice right there. We've got a 3-inch tube going right in to the brake rotors, the eye of the brake rotor right there. That's a real effective way to cool the brakes. And then immediately you notice something's wrong here. I'm going to shoot from this side. Something's wrong here. This is an aluminum alloy arm on an 83. So somebody went back in here and they updated this steel arm car to an aluminum one, so it's got these ball joints, which I don't really dig for racing. The increased camber settings and lowering the car makes that vulnerable to contacting the aluminum arm here on the end. These ball joints are problematic for racing hard, and they'll snap. If they snap, the whole arm fails right across there, and this whole unit just comes slamming back into the footwell. So we notice that. These are dirty, but you can see they're updated caster blocks too. That's not the original style for that. Those look all right. Other things on the corner here, if you look up inside, you see green and you see a M30 ride height kit. Interesting to note the part number on that thing starts with a 937. That means it was developed on the Carrera GT, the 924 Carrera GT. We've got a 28mm Weltmeister sway bar in there. That's really cool stuff. I see stainless steel brake line up front. The calipers look stock. Like I said, we got that ducting. If you come inboard a little bit, you can see this motor mount is just completely collapsed. It's not doing a dang thing for the car at all as far as deadening vibrations. So, and there's also a missing heat shield right here that's going to help keep the heat of the headers, the collector, off of that rubber on that motor mount. It does have a looks like a 4th generation oil pan gasket heat shield. I love that. So there's different iterations of that. This is the fourth generation of that. It has an early collector right here. You can tell there's no big gap. So this is 83 to like 84, 85. The later ones have a much bigger gap right here, and they have longer primaries, which is going to give you a little bit better torque curve. Here's a really slick thing here. This is an addition to the oil pan. So all this right here, down, across, back, is like an added quart of oil to the base of this oil pan. That's pretty slick. For some reason, they saw fit to provide fresh air, I don't know, to the clutch assembly. That's what this hose is for. It's coming from the front of the car, right, all the way up here with its own duct in the front, all the way back here to the sight hole for the clutch fork. Kind of strange. Here's another sensor input. This is for the oil temperature. I don't like to take it from the pan because that's the hottest the oil ever gets. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what temperature the oil is being received at my bearings. So I would rather take a temperature after it goes through the cooler and comes back. And speaking of cooler, this thing has a massive oil cooler in it. You can see inside there, this thing is not only better than a foot wide, it goes up about at least a foot tall. It's one of the tallest oil coolers I've seen. Again, the cutouts to accommodate the airflow right there. So we've got that oil cooler in there. That pretty much dictates you're going to have some way to accommodate that thing. So if we look over here on this side of the engine, we can look up inside and we can see a 951 oil cooler console. Instead of the stock oil cooler like on an 8-valve 944, we've got a 951 mount right there. So pretty cool. Here's the rest of that power steering, the pump bracket lines going over. We can also see that this car has been updated from 3-bladed fans to the later 6-bladed fans on both sides. So that's going to give us some good cooling reserve. Better look at that ducting right here. Really nicely done. I like that stuff. We may leave it on this car. We may bring it over to one of our 944 spec race cars for the customers. So walking backwards now, pretty much no surprises. You can see hardware for mounting the seats, harnesses and stuff. They're all gooed up in oil and stuff. Here's a Weltmeister 22 millimeter rear adjustable sway bar. I see stainless steel chassis lines coming out. It still has the steel control arms. I would rather have updated the rear to aluminum control arms than the mod that was on the front. We see Bilstein's shock absorbers in the rear. I see a newer fuel filter. That's a nice thing. I noticed that these brake caliper bleeders looks like they've been upgraded from 7 millimeter to 8. That's going to match the front. Less tools to carry. One less thing to remember. Normally we have 8 millimeter bleeders in the front, 7 millimeter bleeders in the rear. So not bad. Another cool thing is if you have the car in neutral, stick shift, and I turn this wheel one direction, and then you can see across, the other wheel is turning the same direction as well. That's indicative of a LSD, limited slip option. That's M220 on the build spec sheet in the back of the car. So really nice addition and part of that purchase price for this project car. So really coolly equipped car. We're gonna work towards fixing it up a little bit more and discovering more things about it. Here's one more thing too. You can see there's a screw hole, bolt hole right here. I see evidence of the paint marks right here. So it looks like this car at one point had one of the valances, what they call a toaster grill. Here's another indication right here. Walk right down, you can see the screw holes. So it looks like it had a toaster grill valance on the rear. You can also see the wiring added in the back for the shine down license plate frame, because they added this thing right here. We call this a Heckblende in German. It's a tailpiece in there, and that's why the license plate was moved from up there down to here, so we could accommodate that thing. It's all cracked and bowed right now. It's going to come out, but We are looking forward to a nice, fun project, getting this thing all autocross ready, and we'll put a bunch of people in the passenger seat, driver's seat, and we'll introduce them to why we're crazy about the Porsche 944s. Okay, till then, see you later.